It's 5 o'clock on a Tuesday evening. Students on campus are starting to trickle back into their dorms or apartments around the city, where they'll settle in and catch up on a late assignment or start the next. But for the members of the Suffolk Journal staff, it's still early. Each Tuesday night, more than a dozen editors and writers cram into this room to put together the journal's weekly edition. Some are putting the final touches on their articles, or just getting around to starting them. Others are editing the stories, graphics, and photographs that will fill the 16 pages that still have to be laid out. Most won't leave until after midnight. Some won't leave until much later when the paper is finally ready to go to press.
The Suffolk Journal is the university newspaper that is completely run by student journalists. I think the Journal's whole mission is really to deliver honest and fair and accurate information to the university and to the community that we serve. The whole point of journalism is to be truthful and to serve a community and to hold people in power accountable. And even though we may not be the New York Times or the Globe, we can still have a direct, immediate impact on the community that we're serving, which is Suffolk University. The week really begins on Tuesday with our pitch meeting, where all of the section editors come in and they pitch their story ideas to a room of writers and basically go over what we want to cover for the next week's edition. Wednesdays and Thursday, Friday, throughout the weekend, writers are out covering those stories that we've pitched to them, and their deadline to get those stories to us, unless we've spoken to them otherwise, is noon on Saturday. And it kind of goes through this back and forth sort of process until it's solid and it's following AP format and is the best article that it can be and does the event justice.
So I'm trying to get this writer to respond to me just because we've done a lot of edits on this specific piece. So I am trying to continue to reach out to him. Sometimes we just need small specifics or attribution so it doesn't sound too opiniony because we are on the news desk.
Are you going to print your pages yet?
I am,
yeah. We have production night, which is basically where we take all of the stories from the previous week that have been written and we put them all together into InDesign, which is the program software that we use to lay out all of our pages. At the end of it, though, we send off our files to our company, and they put the paper together, print it for us, and then they'll deliver it to Suffolk University's campus. It is then our job to distribute it to all of our buildings and make sure that it gets in front of as many eyes as possible.
Producing the journal is difficult when it comes to time management. It's a super huge time commitment that I feel like a lot of people don't realize. Between editing articles, laying things out, making sure I'm communicating with writers and getting photos and this and that, I probably spend, maybe close to 20 hours a week.
I think the student publication, the journal, is covering the student community better than anything that is coming to you through the administration by email.
How to summarize the Suffolk Journal? It's one of our richest, most used collections that we have. They start off in the 1930s being very kind of locally focused. And then obviously during World War II, there were pretty much nobody here during that time, so the Suffolk Journal sort of fell off between 1940 and 1946. But after that, it's a drastic tonal change. It's been opened up to women, student life starts, forming, and sometimes when different types of people started to come to the school, different points of view started to clash with each other. So, you'll start to see things like debates in the Suffolk Journals in the 50s and 60s, talking about things like abortion rights and, status of women. And in the 60s and 70s, large national conversations happen about issues particular to certain populations of people. And I think that some students were unsatisfied with how those conversations were being documented in the Suffolk Journal. So they decided to strike out on their own and create their own newspaper that represented their point of view. We have a few editions of this. where the law students wanted their own kind of separate, which, 20, 30, 40 years later, we can draw some really interesting conclusions from that type of information. What types of students were coming here, what was their point of view, what did they do in their day-to-day lives here. Other students are going to be looking back at your experience in 2019 and answering that question for themselves. And this is the type of thing that we would show them.
I have become confident that journalism is safe in their hands, that there'll always be people who are curious, who want to inform, who love chasing the big story and want to give it to the readers. And so I'm very happy to see those guys working. They behave like journalists do. It's really quite a scene up there, and I love it. That's why I love to go up there and visit.
Student journalists are definitely journalists. They go out and they ask the same questions: who, what, where, when, why. They have the same skill set. I mean, we're learning, obviously, we're still in the process, but we're still equally capable of holding people in power accountable.
Being a student journalist can be really hard, and it can be really challenging when people, A, don't take you seriously because you're a student, or B, just don't take you seriously because they don't take journalism seriously. But I think for all students studying journalism today, it's really important to just keep going because it is needed.